Hi everyone, so the topic of today will be about the area of a rectangle. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to do the following tasks. You will have learned the formula to calculate a rectangle's area, and you would also be able to calculate the area of a rectangle. In order to understand how we derivate the area of a rectangle, it's important to remember the properties of the area. So given a unit length, the area of a square of side 1 is equal to 1, and the area is additive. If you're not familiar with these concepts, I recommend you to watch the previous video from the playlist that we just made. Let's do a small recap. So for the unit square, the side length is 1 unit, and the area corresponds to 1 unit square. Here the concept is that we use a general metric, which is unit, but it can be some metrics such as a meter, kilometer, etc. For the second property, we have the area additivity. So remember, the idea is that you can decompose a figure in some disjoint area, and if you sum these disjoint areas, then you get the area of the initial figure. So now let's define a rectangle. So basically a rectangle is a quadrilateral, which means that it has 4 sides, and it also has 4 angles that are right. So basically these are some 90-degree angles. So we have 2 parameters, the length and the width. You can see in the figure that the length corresponds to the horizontal component and the width is the vertical component. So let's start with a simple example in which we have a rectangle of length 2 and width 1. So the idea is that we want to calculate the area of this rectangle. So take a couple of seconds and try to find how to do it. So for those of you who have been able to find it, congratulations. And for those of you who want to know what the answer is, well, the answer is 2 squared units. So the idea is that we can use the previous properties. So you decompose this rectangle into some unit square, and because you know what is the area of a unit square, you're able to know the area of the rectangle. So for example, here you can fit 2 unit square, and then if you do like the count, you get 2 unit square. So it's basically 2 squared units. Okay, so now let's go for a more complex example, which is a rectangle of length 4 and of width 2. So again, try to find the answer. So if you find it, congratulations. For those of you who want to know what is the answer is 8 squared unit. So again, it's the same strategy. You try to fit some unit square inside this rectangle. So if you do this, then what happens is that you can fit 4 of these horizontally and 2 vertically. So as you can see in this figure, you have 8 rectangles. So we write 4 times 2 equal 8. So 8 rectangles of area 1. So 8 squared unit. So what about example in which the length and the width is not positive integers? So let's consider this example with length 4.1 and width 2.2. So the question is, how do you calculate the area of this rectangle? So to do so, I invite you to try to do it, and as a hint, I would tell you, try to take advantage of the method that we used previously. So the idea is how many unit square can we fit horizontally and how many unit square can we fit vertically. So for those of you who have found it, congratulations. So the answer is 9.02. So here the idea is that you can fit 4.1 unit square horizontally and 2.2 vertically. So then after that, if you multiply these two, then you get the area of this rectangle. So now let's define a theorem for the rectangle area. So consider a rectangle of length L greater than 0 and of width W greater than 0 and of area A. So the area is the product between its length and its width. So if you check the previous example, you can see that this theorem can be validated on these examples. However, we will not prove this theorem because it will bring us too far. So an interesting fact is that the square is a particular case of the rectangle. It has two of the properties that we defined earlier for the rectangle, quadrilateral and 4 right angles. So as a result, because this is a particular case, then the theorem of the area of the rectangle can be applied for the square. This is simply a rectangle with width equal to length. So now we know that the area is equal to the square of the side for the square, right? So the formula is simply A is equal to C squared. So now let's review the important elements of this lesson. So we've learned two things. So the first thing that we learned is that the area of the rectangle is equal to the product of its length and its width. So this is the first theorem that we just saw earlier and that we work on. And then a consequence of this is that the area of a square is the square of its side. So basically that's it for the lesson. I hope that you enjoy it and see you next time. Goodbye.